Today, I have to rant. I have to rant about the worst owner in football, that being John Mara. Jags fans seem to have the impression that it's Shad Khan with all their clown dress up and such. At least the Jaguars look like a competitive football team yesterday. At least they won a game. At least they have some hope for the future with Trevor Lawrence, and at least they have some hope. At least the Lions, at least they have Dan Campbell. They have some hope. Dan Campbell, he was coaching a tire-fire roster and managed to squeeze a few wins out of them and many competitive games. The Jets, they competed through those last few games. See, the Giants, they're in the same poverty level organization as the Jaguars, Lions, and Jets, except at least those three teams have a little bit of hope. The Giants, they have no hope. They are planning to keep head coach and head clown of the New York Giants circus owned by John Mara, Joe Judge. They are planning on keeping Joe Judge. Why? Why are they keeping Joe Judge? Is it because he pumps the players up? Is it because they built a culture and a foundation? Well, I tell you what! They haven't fucking translated to wins on the football field. They haven't translated to wins. This culture, quote unquote, culture, has not translated to wins. Is that clear? Oh, I have players calling me saying they were wished they would fucking play. They were wished they were on the Giants. Oh, I have these players calling me saying, oh God, how I wish I could be on that 4-12, 4-13 team. I could just have my golf clubs packed up right away. I could, get paid $72 million to do nothing like Kenny Galladay. I could get paid a $1 million bonus to suck like Nate Solder. Oh, I wish I was on the Giants team. I really do wish. Joe Judge, how does John Mara possibly justify keeping Joe Judge? How does he look a fan base in the eyes and say, this is the guy to lead us forward? How does he look these players in the eyes and say, this is the guy to lead us forward? How does he justify keeping a man who has got blown out by double digits in back-to-back games to end the season? How does he justify keeping a man who has gone 10-23 in his... Is that it? 10-23? 10-23 in his first two seasons in the NFL for a winning percentage less than 33%. How does he justify keeping this man? How? How does he look the players in the eye and say, Joe Judge believes in you? You know why? Because he runs a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9 from his own 4-yard line. He believes in you. He believes in the players. He believes in you. Joe Judge, he believes in you. How does John Mara look the fan base in the eye and say, he's going to lead us to the playoffs and beyond. He's going to lead us to a Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl caliber coach. Oh, this is our baby Belichick. This is my baby Parcells. You just don't see it yet. That's what they're saying. You just don't see it yet. You just don't see it yet. What do you mean you don't see it yet? Because we've built a culture. What culture? You're losing every game. And you know what? In all fairness, when you have Mike Glennon out there, when you have Jake Fromm out there, I don't expect you to win. I don't expect you to win. But can you at least show competitiveness? Can you at least show signs of life? Can you at least score a couple touchdowns? Like, jeez, week after week, 7 points, 3 points, 6 points. The offense, it's a 1920s level production with this offense. It's like we don't even know how to pass the ball. It's prehistoric. It's Jurassic. Negative passing yards in week 17 against the Bears. Negative passing yards. In 2022, you have negative passing yards. How? How is that fucking possible? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know how it's possible for me to stick being a Giants fan. I have been a Giants fan since 2009. I have seen a lot of things. I know there's plenty of fans out there who've seen more things. I am only 19 years old. So, I've been a fan of this team since I was 7. I've seen them win a Super Bowl. I've seen them completely collapse over these last 10 years. 10 seasons of utter disappointment. 1 playoff berth, 2 winning seasons in the last 10 years. An embarrassment. And then you say these last 5 years. 2017 through 2021. This has to be one of the worst 5-year stretches in the history of the NFL. It has to be. I mean, they just get embarrassed week in and week out. I thought 2017 was rock bottom when we fired Ben McAdoo after that 2-10 record. I thought that was rock bottom. I was like, if franchise, I mean, they can't possibly get any worse. This is as bad as it gets. You know, we're a proud organization. We're an organization that's won 4 Super Bowls, 8 NFL championships. We're an organization, you know, we had the 70s. We'll go back. We've had rough patches. This is just a rough patch. We'll get past it. I thought that was rock bottom. 2021 is worse. How did this team even win 4 games? How did they do it? They went 4-13. How did they even win those 4 games? Let me tell you. So the Saints game, that was the one game of the year that Daniel Jones was like, got every fan's hopes up for no reason. That was the game where we all convinced ourselves, including me, we're like, he's a franchise quarterback. Look at that game. He put up 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. He led a game-winning drive in overtime. That was the game for false hope. That was that game. That was the one good game of the year. That was the only legitimate win where both sides of the ball showed up, and it barely happened, too. It barely happened because we were down 21-10 in the 4th quarter, so it barely even happened to begin with. The other 3 games, the one against the Raiders, we only won because of our defense. The Eagles, we only won because of our defense and because Jalen Hurts couldn't freaking throw a football and had a passer rating worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every play. The offense put up 13 points in that game. Let me get it straight. We barely won that game. We almost deserved to not win that game. And then the Panthers game we won. We blew the Panthers out, but that's only because Sam Darnold couldn't throw a football, much like Jalen Hurts. So we were only winning those games because of dreadful quarterback performances. And we had one game where our offense showed up and scored 27 points. We had one game, and we needed overtime to score 27, but we had one game where our offense didn't put up a Jurassic 1920 style output. Every other game this season, including that Raiders game, we put up 23, but 7 of it was on defense. Chargers game, we put up 21, but 2 of those touchdowns were in garbage time. The Saints game was like the one game where our offense wasn't Jurassic, where Kenny Golladay, our $74 million, however much it was, man, where he actually showed up for one game. That was the one game where Kadarius Toney, well, he showed up for the Cowboys game too, but it was a blowout. But those were some of the only games they showed up for. All these offseason additions, they did nothing to bolster this team. So that means I'm glad at least that Dave Gettleman is gone. He is quote-unquote retired. A real football team would have fired him years ago and moved on from him and not allowed him to peacefully retire to Cape Cod in Massachusetts. They would have fired him years ago if they were a real football team. But no, John Mara has insisted on keeping Dave Gettleman throughout these last 4 years, despite him being probably the worst general manager in the history of the NFL. Forget about Trent Baalke, forget about the Jaguars. Dave Gettleman is probably the worst general manager in the history of the NFL. How has he messed up pretty much every single move he's made over 4 years? 4 years, he has messed up every single move. He drafts a running back, number 2 overall. He reaches for a quarterback in Daniel Jones. He drafts a defensive lineman. He drafts a corner that's off the team in 1 year. He drafts Andrew Thomas, who's actually pretty good. Whatever. He drafts Kadarius Toney, who's done nothing his rookie year. What has he done that's improved? He drafted Will Hernandez, who through his 4 years of this team has been a bum. He signed Nate Solder, who's a bum. He signed Kenny Galladay, who led this team with 500 yards this year. That's embarrassing that he's even this team's leading receiver because he's had an absolutely horrible season. It tells you how anemic our passing game is. How? How has Dave Gettleman been allowed to even be on this team for 4 years? And he convinced me. This is the sad part. I was convinced that in 2020 things were starting to turn around. I was convinced. Now this franchise has hit rock bottom. Or maybe they haven't. Maybe it gets worse. I don't know. Maybe there's an 0-17 season ahead. Because I don't even know how this team won 4 games this year. I don't know how they did it. Brian Flores was fired for a 9-8 and a 10-6 record, and I believe a 5-11 record with the entire fire roster his first year in the NFL. Dolphins fired him. Dolphins were ready to move on. They were ready to move on from Brian Flores. And you can question that move. I would question that move. I don't know why. I don't know why they would move on from Brian Flores. He seems like a good coach. But the fact that he was fired and Joe Judge is probably going to continue being the Giants head coach is a disgrace. John Mara, you are a disgraceful owner. You are a disgrace to the sport of professional football. They should take you off the competition committee until you have a winning season again. Until you have a playoff season again. Forget that. Until you have a playoff season again. Until you have like a couple playoff seasons, actually. Until you have proven that you can have a competitive winning roster for a couple years. Until that happens, they should remove you from the competition committee. You cannot be one of the league's most respected owners with this horrible, horrible roster. This horrible coaching staff. Horrible scouting, horrible management, horrible culture. Forget the culture. I know Joe Judge talks so much about it. I know Joe Judge talks so much about building a foundation. There is no foundation when there's no results on the field. I'm done with this team. I swear, they've taken the life out of me. I'm done.